Our next presentation is what we call a First Nations Language Keepers add-on. This particular year, we have featured language speakers from within our own home province here. But we did want to bring in a guest presentation, and we've titled it the Voices in the Wind guest presentation. And joining us today will be Christi Belcourt and Isaac Murdoch. They are from the Metis and Ojibway language groups. The title is Life at Nimkii Aazhibikong, Building a Language, Culture, and Arts Village. Warren, do you want to carry out Christy's biography?
Absolutely. So Christi Belcourt is Michif from Manitou, Sagaigan, Lac St. Anne, Alberta, is a mother, artist, environmentalist, water defender, and advocate for Indigenous languages, peoples, and lands. She is a traditional person who believes in the great power and mystery of the earth and spirit world. Christy is a critically acclaimed artist who has led many national recognized community projects and has won many awards. But as a grassroots leader and organizer, she stays firmly rooted in the rising movement of Indigenous peoples for lands and waters. Her concern and compassion have always been for the people, the animals, and the earth.
What an amazing woman.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Bamgajik. I am sorry if I mispronounced that. Isaac Murdoch, who is from the Fish Clan of the Serpent River First Nation. He is a dad, bushman, hunter, artist, storyteller, musician, and traditional knowledge keeper. Isaac is an environmentalist, revolutionary activist, and fierce defender of the lands and waters. He is a student of the stars and pictographs. His images, like his stories, reflect his deeply held beliefs in the great spirit of the earth. He has won awards and is recognized internationally for his doodles, as he calls them, but he is an artist. But to him, none of that matters. What matters is that climate change is rising, and we all need to act now.
So the abstract of this session, we are going to chat with both Christy and Isaac about their journey and elders and youth from communities along the north shore of the Lake Huron, where they built a Nimkii Aazhibikong. Thank you, Melody, and sorry about that pronunciation. A language and cultural revitalization Camp 3. Both are advocates and learners of the language. Their passion for the land and languages informs everything they do.
Okay.
Oh, there they are.
There they are. Hello, Christi and Isaac.
Tansa Toya.
Hello, Tansa.
Manato.
All right, everyone. Astam, Bitagwe, Ape. Let's listen to Christi and Isaac. We're going to start off with our first question. Can you share with us how this village came to life and help us imagine what a day in the life is like at Nimkii Aazhibikong?
Okay, Ani Bojo, Mazanapkan Gay Go in Abe, in Dishnakaz, Ginabe Guk Shabiga Ajwat, in Don Jaba, Ganoje in Do Dem, and Ishnabe Nini in Dao, Nimkii Aazhibikong Nin Da. My name is the man who paints the rocks, but not just any man, a man that is like an animal. And my village is called the place where the serpents are painted on the rocks. And of course, you know, I'm Ojibway, a Nishnabek, and I live at Nimkii Aazhibikong. And I remember years and years ago, you know, the old people used to talk all the time. And they'd always say that this land holds many, many treasures and gifts for us. And that those are the presents for us. That the land holds many presents and gifts for us. And one of them was the language. And they always felt that it was important to get away from the reserve and have a place in the forest where they could, you know, rekindle the languages, the way of life, our way of belief, our worldview, and to reconnect to those special gifts that await us in the forest. And so the vision of Nimkii Aazhibikong started way before I was born. It's probably started when the Canadian government kicked in. Because all through childhood, that's all they ever talked about was, going back into the forest. And there was people like all over in my travels that talked about this, like Ellen Moves Camp, of South Dakota. She always talked about this, and her son Sam. There was Peter O'Cheese, always talked about that. There was elders like Dennis Thorne, the well-respected Michif elder, who talked about that as well. There was Bobby Woods. He was from the Yukon, Pelly Crossing. He always talked about that. There was, David Roberts from Kukumanani, who talked about these things. And there was all of the grandmothers, there's lots of them that talked about, having a place where we could go in our own lands, under our own governance, our own Chinaknagewanin. And they felt that it was important for us to take the land back. Because when we take the land back, we take our language back. And so this was just, my grandmother was very, very fierce on this idea. She says, we're not supposed to be herded like cattle on the reserves. That's what they did to us. We come from Shkakamukwe. We come from the land. And so Nimkii Aazhibikong started from them. They're the ones that did the ceremonies. They're the ones that sundanced and fasted for this to happen. And I seen them. They were old and they were doing that. Always praying for that all the time. And, so a bunch of like-minded people got together and we decided to get to try and do this and to do it without government funding. And so we got together and we started to fundraise. We started to do what we could. We all lived in tents when we first started. We didn't have nothing. And so that's what we did. We all started living in tents. And the next thing you know, things started just over time, they started to develop. And it was the first time that I can say that I had my own home was at Nimkii Aazhibikong. Because before I was always living, on people's couches or in bush shacks or tents or things like that. So it became my home. And the people here consider it their home too. And so Nimkii Aazhibikong is really just a continuation of the vision of the elders from long ago. And so everything was rooted in the ceremonies. Everything was rooted in the offerings. We always made sure that we gave back all the time. And it was a lot of hard work, but to live up to the elders and what they're saying, we have to take our land back. Meanwhile, we have to take these things back because it's how we're going to survive. And so Nimkii Aazhibikong is part of the Onwigitchgewen, the stories of the future, that our people will return back to the forest and they'll reclaim all the things that the government took away from us. That we'll have it all back, and we'll go back to the forest, and we'll start picking up our presents, our gifts in the forest. And that's Nimkii Aazhibikong. It's about you know, the rekindling of who we are as Indigenous people on the land. And language is the glue that holds it all together. And as many of you know, the Indian Act has been so instrumental in removing Indigenous languages because it forces people into the globalization of Western education, into the assimilation of the Canadian politic. It creates these man-made economies that are not connected to the land, and it deadlocks us into poverty politics, and it's like choking. It's like choking us. Like there's the language just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And now it's at the point where the kids don't speak. It's where the adults don't speak. Nobody speaks it. And the elders were right in their vision. They were right to say that. They were right to Sundance for that and to fast for that. I remember seeing this old lady. She was Sundancing for this, for people to go back. And I remember on the third day, she fell down. And she was so hot. And her skin was so red. And I had to take her out of the Sundance because she was gonna die. And she said, "No, leave me in here. I want to die for our language." And I remember taking her into the lodge and giving her water. And I told her, "Not today." I said, "Just not today." But that's how serious it was when I was growing up. And I'll never forget that. And, the globalization of Western education doesn't leave any room for our language. And so we filter our kids through this system. And they don't come out language speakers. They don't come out a land-based people. They don't come out free, the Benzoin. They don't come out roaming the forest and the lands as a free people, like how it was a long time ago. And so we felt that Nimkii Aazhibikong would be important. The elders felt it would be important so that we could have our freedom back, to be who we actually truly are, to develop our gifts, to develop our strengths, and to start re-educating. Because we had a very high discipline of education. It was so highly disciplined that we could live on this earth without a garbage can. That we could live on this earth and leave it the same way we found it, without compromising anything. We had our own legal system, our own education system, our own healthcare system, our own judicial system, our own governance. And that was all tied together and weaved together through Anishinaabemowin, through the language. That's the glue. That's the gorilla glue that holds everything together and makes it strong. So we know that in order to get back, to go back to not how we were. Maybe that's not possible right now, but we have to start taking back what was taken away from us. And we have to start to, listen to the elders. Abdekwi Baskabing Anishinaabe Adso Nikia. They told us the instructions are already laid out. They always said we're going to have to go back. One day they said, we're going to have to go back. So we all figured, well, let's just do it now. Let's go get in the bush now. What are we waiting for? It's climate change already. frickin' world is falling apart at the seams here already. I think, I don't know what are we waiting for? Like the world to actually start on fire and not stop? So we were like, let's go, the time's now. We need to start producing climate leaders. We need to start producing, leaders that are going to know this land inside out like the back of their hand. The sacred places. All of those things that keep us alive during hard times. So when I was a kid, we were educated to know where these places were and what lived there. So for example, we knew where the Bnabe Kwayak lived, the mermaids. We knew where the Ginebeguk lived, the serpents. We knew where the Nimkii Aazhibikong lived, the thunderbirds. We knew where the Pahisak, the Bagojininiwak, the Memegwesiwak, those little peoples. We knew where those nations of people lived. All across this land it was rich. And during times of war and famine and sickness, we would go there. And of course, we would give offerings to survive. And so part of Nimkii Aazhibikong is to get back to understand that way of life. To understand that we're just guests here on Shkak Makwe, this earth. And that, they always said, always, don't be bothering the ground. There's beings that live in the ground. If you dig up that power, it's going to destroy everything. That's not our world to bother. There's monsters that live in there. Hoo-hoos. And that they can destroy everything. So where I come from, there's a lake in Salgamagaming. And there's a tunnel system that goes to Kopkikmiksing. Then it goes to another place called Mintigwayasin. Then it goes to Ginebeguk Shibigajwat. Then it goes to Ginebek Niashing. And this tunnel goes to Shkodeying. Then it goes to Asinkik. Then it goes to Dashkopkok. Then it goes to Bodashkaying. And this tunnel that keeps traveling, it goes to Metigog Zibing, Asini Swasening. Then it goes to Quikwigzhuang. Then from there it goes to Nodwe Gojing. And then to Ajdop Kissining. All those places is where that tunnel comes up. And there's things that live in those waters there. Powerful beings. But that's also where the Musinabeganon live too. The spirit paintings. So we were always told that that's how we're going to survive. It's not going to be the government. The government is going to try to kill us. But we have to return back to that land and the spirits of the land if we're going to survive. And our language is going to help us. The language is going to save us. The language is the one. Giken mana nik. Gawin wikah mindan ziniwan gnak nagawin nananin. The government, the laws of the land have been broken. They've been shattered. And now everything is being destroyed. So the language to me is medicine. It's going to help bring everything. It's going to make us strong. And it's going to, like I said, it's the thread that brings us everything together. So that the animals are not completely wiped out. And Chinachigasawa, Kinege go and Chinachiga de Mampi Aking. Because everything is being destroyed. So I see how language and spirit and our spirit is all wrapped into one. It's all a part of what makes us who we are. And all the gifts that are out there, of course, are also tied to the language. And the reason why I'm talking so much is because that's what Christy wanted. She said, "You talk first and I'll talk second." So that's what Nimkii Aazhibikong is about. It's about reconnecting. It's about returning back to not just the language and the land, but the whole world view of who we are as people on the land. And that's the gift that the elders left us. That's the gift that they wanted to give us. And say, look at all the presents out there. Look at all the beautiful gifts that are out there. Go. Put down your tobacco. And go. Don't look back. So that's what we kind of did. And it wasn't easy. It was hard. Because you know how Indians are. As soon as you try to do something, everybody's trying to fight you. Everybody turns into a ninja. You know, as soon as you try to do something good, all the ninjas come out of the darkness. But you know what? We stayed steady on our mission. We stayed steady and said, no, we're not going to let the ninjas take us out. And we just kept working and kept working and kept working. Anakia. And we kind of fell apart a little bit as we did this. I know I fell apart at the seams one time. There was so much work and so much responsibility. So then Christy would step in and just crank her really good. And then we take turns just kind of like falling apart and like and like picking each other up and doing the work that was needed. It's not easy when you got ninjas trying to attack you all the time. And that's what the old people said. As soon as you try to do something good, the ninjas are going to try to get you. But just keep on your path. That sacred path, Wabanomikan, is a very sacred path. The red road. The sun never takes a step back. It keeps on going. So of course, you know, we were told never take a step back. So sometimes when we put on our beautiful face paint in our ceremonies, we're reminded of that through that ornament, through that sacred paint, that we have to keep going no matter what. Because if we want a better world for our children, we're the ones that have to make it for them. We cannot rely on other people to make this world beautiful for our children, for our grandchildren. It has to be us. We are the chosen ones. For some ridiculous reason, we are the chosen ones that have to put up with all this monkeying around and trying to decolonize and trying to take land back and trying to do everything. But you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it. It's beautiful. And so that's, to me, the struggle was worth the gift that the elders were talking about. I can't even explain the gift of Nimkii Aazhibikong because we have people here. We have beautiful elders, beautiful young people. We have a small little community. And you know what? We're pretty solid. And it's a gift. It's very, very beautiful. And so I'll just stop there and let Christy give a good crack at this. Nahao miigwech, miwe.
Tansay, Christi and Isaac, Nimkii Aazhibikong, Ekwa, Espanola, Ontario, Miigwech na weekend. I'm really, this has been a long time in the making. Like, we were supposed to come to Saskatchewan and be part of this conference. And so thank you, Melody and your team, for the perseverance of having us on, keep inviting us back year after year until finally we're here. So this is great. And it's kind of neat because when you first invited us to come on to this the language conference, Isaac and I are, and the people at the camp, the younger people at the camp are all language learners. We are dedicated, avid, lifers, language learning lifers. And if you're a language learner, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not easy. It's very, very difficult. It requires a lot of time, dedication, determination. You have to become a language nerd. You gotta kind of really like it in a nerdy way. And so we are all very, very dedicated and determined. And so building the camp Nimkii Aazhibikong was, as Isaac explained, there's a long history to it. My grandparents spoke Cree. They never spoke the language to my dad and his siblings. That's a very common story across the board from that generation. So many people can resonate with that, the idea that their parents or their grandparents didn't speak the language to the next generation because they thought that they were going to help them get ahead somehow. And then here we are in my generation, just starving for it, just struggling for it so hard. So the first thing I want to say is anybody who speaks the language who's fluent, speak it to your kids and your grandkids. Holy, don't speak English at all. Just only speak the language to them. Give them that gift of language so that they don't have to grow up and be 54 years old as I am, sitting here for 10 years being a language learning lifer, trying to get the language back again. But it's really rewarding in terms of the camp. We built the camp. We started doing the fundraising and stuff. And one of the elders in the area said, "Hey, like, where are you guys going to live if you live out there? Because it's going to get hard in the winter, and people are not really accustomed to staying in tents and stuff much and without running water and things like that." We still don't have running water, but so we started building, we started fundraising, and now we're up to 6 cabins. We've got a cook shack, we've got our lodges, and we've got a beautiful language. Now we're just on the last stages of a language learning studio and traditional arts space. We don't do anything by the calendar. This is really important too, is that the land governs. It governs everything. So, if we lived according to how the land requires us to live and how the environment needs us to live and how this earth needs us to live, we would live according to the laws of the land. And that's what's required. And so when we're there, it comes into conflict. When you're trying to do land-based learning, you will always find that there's a conflict between the calendar life and the land-based calendar. So the natural laws of the land are seasonal. You do things when things are ready. You can't make maple syrup if the sap isn't running. You can't blueberry pick unless the blueberries are ready. So everything is changing too because of climate change, because of the climate crisis. So things are starting to shift and change. Things are not acting as they were before. You can't predict when the sap is going to run as maybe you once could. So you have to be able to be flexible. You've got to move. You've got to be able to do things when things are ready to happen. And that runs into conflict with the 9 to 5 school and Monday to Friday school, education. And so there's land-based education and there's school education. And sometimes those two can't get along because of the natural laws and the natural seasonal changes. So when we're doing our thing, we're really trying to push back against the idea of programs and services and fitting things into weekends. And, if you want to learn how to make a quill basket, you've got to learn, when do you get the birch bark? You have to learn how to process that birch bark, what kind of birch bark. Then you've got to learn how to flatten it so that it's ready to go when you need it. Then you have when the quills are ready, you've got to wash them and you've got to do all that. When you go get the porcupine quills, or when you're lucky to come across one, maybe a live one, if you can't get them, and unfortunately a roadkill, So you've got those things. Then you've got the sweetgrass picking time. So you've got to get that, when it's time to pick the sweetgrass. There's a whole lot of teachings around seasons and around when things are ready to do a quill basket. When people show up to do workshops and they've got the quill basket ready and they've got their words on a list and they've got their sweetgrass picked for you, that's not creating the kind of elders that we're going to need. I think about the babies that are being born now, and I think about how important it is that those babies that are being born now have elders like what we were lucky to have. And if we don't jump on this now, what kind of elders are going to be there for the future generations? Are they going to have that land-based, in-depth land-based knowledge? We have to value our own education systems. That's part of the problem, is that we look to the white man's education system as being the important one to have. And so people will often say, oh, you can have land-based education or language land-based education, but we need both. We need both, they'll say. And my question is, well, show me both. Show me where we've had both. Because right now it's 99% white education and 1% ours, really. We don't have both. We put the emphasis on making sure our kids are in school all the time, but we don't put equal emphasis on making sure our kids are on the land and learning the language. So having white man's education might be important, especially if you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to go into that kind of field, scientists. We need all those kind of people too. So it's not like I'm saying don't do that, but I'm saying strategic wise, we're not being smart in our communities when we're watching our languages dwindle away to nothing. And at the same time, we're insisting our kids go to school, all the time to learn English and French, be immersed in English and French. And it's not just being immersed in English and French, it's being immersed in the thinking, English and French thinking. This is what we really have to ask ourselves strategically, what is the best course for our communities? And how are we going to ensure that we have children as first language speakers again? We're never going to do it with 1,000 beginner classes, learning how to say nouns like, beaver and, amisk, musqua. We're never going to be able to pass the language on like that. What about the spiritual language too? What about the language of the land? What about those kinds of deeper, like old languages and the words that are not really found in dictionaries? What if we don't have our children being immersed in these things, send a bunch of kids off to learn from elders on the land in a full-time basis? How are we going to have the kind of elders that we were blessed to have for the next coming generations? So just thinking about that, that's what, I don't know, we've built our camp now. I feel really great about what we've done so far. Like Isaac was saying, a couple breakdowns, we help each other out, all those things. And the ninjas, the ninjas coming in online, the ninjas coming in, you never know. It's just, you just got to do what you got to do. But I feel really proud of what we've done. We've built a whole camp, and now we've been learning all the way along. There's a couple of youth that are at the camp full time. That's their land, it's their territory. And there they are, when I hear them speak with some of the elders, even though we're just learners, I hear them speak and they're just beautiful. It's beautiful to hear them speak, and the elders are so proud of them when they're trying to speak the language and to have little conversations with them. And this is what makes it all worth it. Is land-based learning the only form of language education that is of value? No, absolutely not. Every single form of education for language is important, including classroom education, including grammar, including listening, including what it's like you have to get it everywhere you can. You can't we can't at this point reject any kind of learning or say one type of teaching or learning is superior than the other. You know, we should embrace every single kind of learning of language that we can possibly get our hands on. And so we're doing well. Would I say that we've been successful in producing language speakers at this point? No, because language learning and speaking is a long-term thing. We've been at this for 4 years. We've been primarily focused on building while learning the language. Now that we're almost done the building, our plan is to open it up and start to really focus on going full on with language learning. So, you know, check back in with us in a couple of years, see how that's been going. Plus, COVID kind of put a sort of a sock in it in a way. Like we couldn't really do much because of that. We had to kind of close things down, like everywhere did. So, you know, we'll see where we're at. But yeah, that's my message. If you're a language speaker, oh man, speak it all the time. Just don't even pity. Don't even pity the English speakers who are struggling. Just, you know, immersion with your kids and your grandkids. Give them that gift if you can. They'll really appreciate it later in life. So with that, I'll just say hi, you know, Kanaskominton, and then ask them on.
Thank you so much. That was a great, in my mind, I could just visualize the camp and some of the different things that you do there. So thank you for that. I know Warren has another question here for you.
Yeah, no, nanaskom din for all your knowledge. And one of my questions originally was, you know, like how the language and culture and art, how does your language, culture, and art village govern itself? But through both your conversations and your what you were explaining to us, you talked all about that. You talked about land governs us. You know, like the time, the seasons. You know, you can't do anything without that. So that in itself, it can answer that part. But I think just moving on, you did make a note though about you don't receive any government funding. I guess onto that, how then do you sustain yourselves in your village?
You want me to do this, Isaac? You're muted.
Yeah, go for it. Give her.
Okay, so, well, we've done a lot of community, I guess it's called crowdsourcing for funding. So we use Facebook and social media. Isaac and I have done a lot of artwork, sold that, T-shirts, and we've, you know, I like kind of money that we get sometimes for working, doing conferences or things like that goes right back in there. Award money, things like that we've put back in, but also recently, just in the last year, it's sort of like Creator was taking care of us or something when we started having our little breakdowns from all of that. It's not easy, but when we started having these little breakdowns, the Calliopeia Foundation from the United States and the Seventh Generation Fund from the United States called us up and they said, hey, we heard about the good work that you're doing there. Could you use some help? And we're like, yeah, yeah, for sure we could. And it came just in the perfect time. So we're really grateful to them. They've helped us with particularly with the studio and the arts, the language building that we're building. It's sort of like a community space that's going to be multi-purpose. Yeah.
So in thinking about what you just shared with us, I understand that you have some pictures to share just to further enhance in people's minds what goes on at Nimkii Aazhibikong. Can you share those and talk to us about that?
Yeah, I guess I'll just hit the share screen. Now, I didn't organize them in any form, so you might see some pretty rough photos. I'm just going to see if I can do desktop. And share. You're gonna just ignore my messy desktop, okay? It's gonna look really. It's gonna look like madness. So, okay. So can you guys can see that, right? Well, I guess I have to blow it up. Do I?
Yeah, we just
Yeah.
see your file folder. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
Let's see that. There's Blanche with geese. Oh, look at that. I'm gonna have to like escape every single time. And then that's Blanche with her geese. Okay, let me see this. This is at the beginning stages of, you can see that, right? That's our
Wow.
language learning and cultural studio, or what will be, or what is now, Cedar workshop. So, oh, that one didn't turn out well. Sorry, I feel like this is such a failure in terms of like a slideshow. So we planted a garden. Oh, these are all small. Okay, softening hides, smoking hides, elder's cabin. I guess if you're looking at the big screen behind you, you can see it better, but our garden, just wait. Isaac has many more better photos than I do, but okay. This one here, you can see that there, that's the building getting built. And I'll go here. This is a cedar mat that we have a lot of people that come into the camp, and we ask them to come in, like very talented artists. And this is Renee Dillard. She's really well known. Her name is Wasan. She's really well known for her cedar weaving and her bulrush weaving. So she came in and showed folks how to split the cedar, how to make traditional mats.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, here's a shot of our inside of our lodge, one of our lodges. So we have a lodge that is built like this, and it's long and large, and we spend a lot of time in there, as much time as we can. It's like the outside world disappears when you're in there. It feels like emails and social media and just the demands of the Western world feel so intrusive and invasive on your life. And things really slow down. You really get a sense of, you just really live with the time of, the time of the day, the weather, the seasons. And we do lots of things in there. We have ceremonies in there, but we also do activities in there. And let's see, here's a picture of, this is at the beginning when we were building that lodge. We had a lot of community people show up and start peeling logs and helping us out. That was really great. This is at the beginning when we were living in those tents, and we didn't have any, at the time, we didn't have any cabins yet. Let's see. And language is like always in everything that we do. So no matter what we're doing, we're constantly doing language. We're learning words. We're trying to use them with each other. We're trying to create like a language cohort amongst us. And I'll just see what else I have. One more maybe. And yeah, there's another scene. So this is like when we were outside underneath one of the tents. It was, oh God, that day was so hot. So we're just like, let's just go learn language. So this is one of our young people, Nimkii. He's really gone far with his language. And so he's starting to teach us too, which is really cool. And that's about it. I think that's all I'll share for now, just to give you a little bit of an idea. Sorry, my slides were just not that great.
No, that's all good. Thank you for
apologize for
sharing.
that.
Those are really beautiful pictures.
Let's see if we could get this one going there. Watch.
Oh, man.
Too cute.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, that's us doing our hides and stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which one? Okay. So you're number 3?
Yeah, I asked that one.
Oh, essay. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing those. Those are beautiful. It just gives us a good visual of the amount of work it takes. You know, like when you say it takes a community, you guys are actually doing that, like all hands on deck. So like, amazing to you guys. Akamemo for everything that you guys are doing. That's amazing. So my question is, what you've shared with us is a way of life, daily survival. This is not a fad or something cool, but carrying out elders' wishes. What would you like visitors to know if they plan to visit the community?
I think I'd really want visitors to know that, because we do get quite a lot of visitors, that we're not a camp that's equipped for, you know, babysitting, and those types of things. Because that happens, right? It's like parents will come and just drop their kids off, and then they're gone. And so this is really we want this to be a community, family orientated initiative for a community to come in. And like I said, we're still just in the construction phase, so we haven't really got to that next part. And I think we're going to kind of define how that looks in the future. And I think language for the camp has been very healing too for so many of us, because just like everybody, we've all been affected by the intergenerational effects of residential schools and trauma and those types of things. And there's a few of us in the camp that remember being apprehended by Indian agents and the trauma and all of that took place. And so language is very healing for us, but at the same time, we're not a healing camp. So if you have, if people have, we're just not equipped to deal with people that have, severe trauma problems. Because I have severe trauma problems. So like, don't be coming to my house, or we'll both be sitting there crying around together in the wigwam. So we really do want to focus on language, land-based activities, and it's very healing that way in itself. And at the same time, we have to make sure that people are safe, because there's kids, there's families. It's a very safe camp. And so that's how we're going to keep it. And, there's a time and place for everything. And this camp really is for the revitalization of our Anishinaabe Adsoin, our way of life. I think that, there's lots of people that come, but during COVID, it's really difficult because, you get really awesome people that'll show up like just without saying anything. And it's like, I got my shots. And I'm like, I don't care. Do you have COVID? Like, that's all I care about, COVID has been extremely difficult for everybody. And we want to make sure that we guard and protect our language keepers. It's of the utmost importance. And so, making sure that they're safe, that COVID never touches them, never reaches them, is our highest priority right now. So we're telling visitors, like, unless you're invited and have a test saying you don't have it, then really you shouldn't be coming at this time, unless it's a coordinated effort where precautions are put in place, testing has been done, those types of things. Simply because COVID has taken out so many language speakers just in this past year and a half. And they're saying that at least, in some places it's up to 12%, 13% of the language speakers have left because of COVID. And so it's really, really important that we respect, our community protocols when it comes to COVID. And so right now, I just want to make that. I just want to double down and say that, just to make sure that people are safe, and Because we need them. We need our elders here. And many of them are getting up there, and I'm not going to say they're old because I'll get beat up, but they're getting up there in age, and we need them around for many more years. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that. The things that you've shared with us today, talking about language and ceremony and the land and being a village that's governed by the land, all of that is information that people really need to take to heart. And when I have you two here before us right now, I know that I could sit and talk well into the night, probably tomorrow and a few days, just to keep learning about what life is like there. But unfortunately, we do have time constraints. So what I want to leave these last 10 minutes or so is for you. What else do you want to share that maybe we haven't asked, or something that you want to touch on that you want people to know?
I guess I'll go.
Gintam, Christy.
Okay. What I want people to know is that it's really a beautiful life to be on the land. It's hard. It requires work, and I think it's not a weekend or an off hours event. It's really important that kids be given this opportunity to live like this for a bit and experience that. And I want people to know that hard work is okay. It feels good. It feels really good when things are done together as a team. And not to, don't make any committees. It doesn't work if we do the Robert's Rules of Order and we're going to sit around a committee and we're going to, sometimes consensus is misused to say that we're going to beat somebody's idea to death until they don't feel motivated to do it anymore. Sometimes it's important to just back each other up. And when you're in a community, part of the governance of that community is to no gossip, no trashing each other, no getting pissed off. I mean, if you're a little bit tired or whatever, go have a nap. Just don't, we have to get along with one another. We don't have to agree all the time, but we have to get along. We've got to work together. So that's my message is just bring your positive attitude and your willingness to work, to do the mundane stuff like hauling water and washing dishes is a huge part of being in a camp together. Doing that work and being there all the time to do the hard stuff, the dirty stuff, to haul the garbage away. All that stuff is part of it. And nobody's above one another. And if you just respect one another and you really care for one another, you can do really great things together. So, Isaac, Pintam.
Yeah, those are good. Those are very good words to live by, because it makes everything so much easier. And because we're already in a hard situation. And, I often think that, I'm a bit of a dreamer myself. I've always got my heads in the clouds or something. But I believe that, we were chosen to be here at this time in history, and that this is something very spiritual that's happening to the earth and to our people. And so making our offerings, making our payments, to the earth is really important. And that's what we've done all along, because one day, 1,000 years from now, they're going to be sitting around a fire telling this story of when the two-legged tried to destroy the entire earth. And we're the characters of that story. We're the characters of that Atsukan. And the language. And I really believe this with all my heart, the language can save our people. The language is so powerful. It's a strong medicine. It can save our people. And it can prepare us for what's coming. And in this very sacred story that we're in now, isn't this what we're supposed to be doing? Isn't this when we band up back together into tribes and go back and reclaim who we are so that we can survive? This is serious stuff. This is serious stuff. And language is medicine that can really help us. So, my words is to dig deep, and work hard and bull through it. And, and don't let the ninjas get you. Thank you, everybody. Miigwech.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Miigwech.
Yeah, great.
And get you in dumb. Thank you.
Yes, thank you both so very much, Nanaskuan, for your endeavors, and I just want to say, Akamemo, keep going, keep persevering. Like you guys said, it's hard work. Just really quickly, how would we be able to help, like people out there, with your initiative? We know that people around the community, around tuning in right now. We know that you guys do murals around the country, but are there other ways, especially during COVID, that people could reach out and help and show support?
I want to say thank you for that offer. We're good.
Okay.
We're really good.
Okay.
If anyone wants to help, go buy some trappers' tents, some little wood stoves, and give it to a young group of people who are looking to set up a camp on the land for themselves. Go help the next ones that need it. We're good now. We're okay. And if we need to fundraise, we'll fundraise for it or whatever. But just keep praying for the language. Keep fasting. Keep making those offerings to the land. And if you're going to help anybody, fundraise for young people and or not necessarily young people, just a startup. There's lots of people wanting to go out on the land and stuff, and they don't have government funding. They don't have access to funding either. So just fundraise for them and give them the startup. And each time we help somebody else, we're going to have a lot of camps across the country like this.
Thank you two so
Land
much.
back.
That was
Land
amazing and not nearly enough time ever. But thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to exit off the stage and Warren is going to continue on. But I do hope to see you both sometime soon in the near future. Kinanaskumpton.
Hi.
Thank you both. Again, Marcy Miigwech, for your perseverance and walking the walk and talking the talk. For all the work that you do, both Christine Belcourt and Isaac Murdoch. Thank you so very much for being part of this Language Keepers Conference this year in 2021.